All right, welcome to the first intermission of the first playoff game for the Minnesota Wild. They currently have a 1-0 lead over the Vancouver Canucks in Edmonton. I am Brandon Mileski. He is Pat Micheletti. If you're watching, you can tell that because our names are right at the bottom. And Pat, let's break down this first period. Pretty good start for the Minnesota Wild after that first shift in which Vancouver was on top of them a little bit. But for the first half of that period, the Minnesota Wild really just dominated the offensive zone.
Yeah, first 10 minutes, Brandon, I thought Minnesota came out flying and did what they needed to do, establish a forecheck. I thought, the third and fourth lines, they drew a penalty. And, the thing that disappointed me is they had the opportunity. Markstrom was great in that period. It certainly could have been 2-3 nothing for Minnesota. But you got to finish, and they had opportunities, and you want that separation goal. You knew that the period was going to settle in a little bit, and it did after that 10-minute mark. Vancouver had some pretty good chances, but if you're Minnesota, you going up 1-0 after one, you got to be happy.
If you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, or the YouTube account for KFN, we can see your comments, so feel free to ask any questions or give us any of your analysis of that first period. And let's begin. I thought, really the shift that changed momentum early on in this period, Pat, was that shift by Ryan Donato on the fourth line for the Minnesota Wild. Donato had a shift there. We had that quick shot going on the rush. He then had that feed to Hunt, that Hunt shot wide. Then he was out front, had another chance, then drew the penalty, which led to the Fiala power play goal. I thought that that first shift by Donato really set the tone for this Wild team.
Well, we talked about it in our pregame show. If the first two lines can play even with the top two lines of Vancouver, and win it with our third and fourth line, and Donato's of all the players that we've talked about, we haven't talked about him, and he adds an element that brings goal scoring and making plays, and he's got good hands, and he sees the rink so well and can make those plays. Unfortunately, Hunt didn't put it away. But like you said, they drew the penalty, which led to the Fiala goal and got things rolling.
Pat, did you ever have out-of-town tournaments when you were a kid where everyone was staying in the same hotel and you had like those awkward moments where the team you were playing against, was coming by you as you're going by the pool or something?
All the time.
How awkward is it going to be in this bubble in the same hotel for Foligno and Furland after getting into a fight just a minute 19 into this first period?
Well, I think all the teams that are playing, it is all business, and I think they will avoid them like the plague. And they're going to just stay together as a team, talk together as a team, and it's we'll talk when the season's over. So. It's really strange. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't use other hotels, especially against the team that you're playing against.
Somebody called JGKFAN says your best players have to be your best players. We were just talking about on the pregame show on KFAN before we decided to watch the game, Pat, that to me, Kevin Fiala, showing us that he's the Kevin Fiala we saw 4 or 5 months ago is huge for this team to have that star power, to have that offensive swagger. And, you could call it a soft goal, but still, I thought he looked great early on, and obviously put the Wild on the board right away.
He makes plays, and he was their best player in that period, and he's flying. And I tell you what, that's got to scare Vancouver an awful lot. He made the pass. Made the pass over to Eric Stahl. And, you know how I feel about in tight, Brandon. You have to go upstairs, especially if you have the time. And he goes upstairs. That's a goal. And, that's what I'm talking about when it comes to how many grade A opportunities are you going to get in a game? Okay. Probably not a lot. And when you get them, you have to bury him. And, like I said, Markstrom played well. He made some great saves, but Minnesota had the opportunity to be up 2-3 nothing after one.
Obviously, a big topic of conversation going into this game was who'd play in goal. Dean Evison kept it secret. He went with Alex Stalock, and we've had multiple questions in our chat here about Stalock. Jacob Musselman says thoughts on Stalock. Zach Denzio says, are you surprised Stalock got the start? David Vandry says is Stalock the starting goalie going forward. Pat, I don't think either of us were surprised he got the start.
Nope.
Other than maybe one rebound opportunity he gave up, I thought he was pretty good in that period. Most of the shots were from the outside, but I thought he did a good job of being really aggressive and coming out and cutting off the angle.
Yeah, I think if Vancouver plays it smart, they will try to get a lot of bodies in front of him because, as we know, Alex is not the biggest goalie, and you got to make him not see the puck. But no, I thought he looked sharp. Yeah, he gave up the one bad rebound, but other than that, that's what they're looking for. Handle the puck, and his energy is there always. So a pretty good period because the game did settle in. Vancouver did start to, I don't want to say control. They had more control of the puck in the second half of the period. And, it looked like the Vancouver that we thought we'd see.
One thing I was planning on bringing up in this intermission, Pat, was, but about 2 minutes ago, I'm trying to think of stuff I want to talk about during this intermission. And my first thought was, hey, we talked about the Wild got to stay out of the penalty box. Vancouver had the fourth best power play in the league. Then right as I'm thinking that, Zach Parise gets the holding penalty in 2 minutes. But what a mistake by Vancouver with a chance to get on the power play, maybe tie things up before the period ends, to get too many men on the ice penalty, which is must drive the coach crazy.
Well, we talked about it. Okay, when you get tired, and I don't know if the guy was at the end of a shift or what, but you could tell he was going off the ice slow. Guy jumps on early. You can't make those mistakes, and those are the mental mistakes that we really got to pay attention to in the second and third period when the legs get heavy and the guys get tired. But to make that mistake in the first period, not good. I mean, it got rid of a power play for Vancouver.
Joshua Lyons wants to know, where do you think we should improve in these next two periods?
Well, listen, I think we both and everybody understands you can't keep up the pace that Minnesota came out with in the first 10 minutes. It's virtually impossible. So what you got to do is stay consistent, right? And continue to, get pucks in deep, continue to pound their defense. Because I tell you what, when Minnesota's forecheck was going, it was really impressive, and Vancouver had a really, really difficult time handling the pressure Minnesota put on.
Zan Demmer wants to know, could you please explain the process of the playoffs? I'm lost. Obviously, this is all brand new to us here, Pat. We have 12 teams in each conference advancing. The Wild were 1 point out of a playoff spot when the season ended. So had they just gone with the 8-team approach, the Wild would not have been in. But basically, your 5, 6, 7, 8 seeds in each conference are playing the 9, 10, 11, 12. This is the 7-10 matchup between Vancouver and Minnesota here. And then the teams will advance to play the 1 through 4 seeds, which are those 4 teams in each conference are playing a round robin to determine the seeding. So then after this qualifying rounds, we'll be back to just the 8 teams in each conference.
Yeah, this is virtually a play-in to get in the playoffs, hence the qualifier. So yeah, it's really going to be intriguing to me to see, the Colorados, the Dallases, those teams are jockeying for position, and where they end up and how much of an effort they put in preparing themselves for the real playoffs.
Bailey Palicki wants to know, do you envision a bigger role for Donato next year? I know we don't necessarily mean to be looking ahead too far in advance here, Pat, but it's hard to know what's going to happen through free agency. And, I think we both expect trades to happen, specifically the team addressing the second line center position during the offseason, however long that offseason is. But Donato's been one of those guys that's been kind of up and down the lineup and never really getting a consistent role despite putting the puck in the net.
Well, I don't think he's the type of player that's going to be a third and fourth liner his whole career. And so I think what Minnesota is going to have to determine with him is he good enough to be a top 6 guy? Can he get through a whole season playing against top line guys and being able to deliver, 15 to 25 goals a season? That we don't know yet. We know he's capable of it. and he's got to play with the right guys. I think no matter how you look at it, I think eventually he's going to be a real good power play guy because he passes the puck extremely well. He's a really smart player, and we both know that he's got to get a little bit stronger, and I know he's working on that. But there are other teams out there. If Minnesota really goes after a center and they don't get him via free agency, there's guys that are likely to be traded. His name is going to get brought up.
You're getting lots of compliments on your hair, Pat. People are loving the flow.
Good. I like it.
Pat Griswold, who's actually the boys high school hockey coach at Holy Angels, says Wild have some power play zone entry issues on that second power play. What adjustments would you make?
Well, there's a big difference, a big drop off when you have Fiala with his speed. Automatically, that's going to back up the defense, right? And so I think they probably need a different approach with the second unit. I would gain speed through the neutral zone, and I would drive it in, and obviously keep it away from Markstrom. But you gotta be smart about it. You gotta be able to drive it in with guys going with speed into the zone. You don't just want to dump it in, but every power play is different. Every player is different. There's not a Kevin Fiala out there. Every power play. So you got to make the right adjustments with the personnel that you have.
Well, I don't even know how many adjustments you could make at this point, Pat, where you've been off the ice for 4 or 5 months. I know they've been together through training camp and stuff,
right.
But your normal stuff that you do on special teams, even 5-on-5, you're not at 100% at to begin with. So I don't know how much you'd want to tinker even this early on in the series.
Well, no, and you really, especially with the second unit, you keep it simple. The goal is to get it in, get control of it, and get set up. And it's each power play is just going to be different.
All right, final question from Lindsay Micheletti. She says, "Who has been the best player on the ice for the Wild?"
Well, I think she heard me earlier because she's sitting right next to me. But Kevin Fiala was terrific. I mean, we talked about it. He came in ready, and he really doesn't look, Brandon, much different than the way he looked back in March and in the hot streak that he was on. And hey, listen, he carried him then, and it looks like he's got that same purpose to his game, and is going to have to do it in this series.
Before we go, I'm supposed to give a shout out to the 4 Brainerd guys that are watching our show, including the host Darren Olson. So we appreciate all of them up in God's country for watching the show. And please, hopefully we can golf Madden's or Grandview Lodge sometime soon because it's just beautiful up there. All right, Pat. That's it for the first intermission. We'll talk to you again in this exact same format on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. All of the KFAN pages. We'll do the same thing after the second intermission. We'll talk to you then.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. He's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. The Wild are up 1-0 after one period against the Vancouver Canucks in Edmonton. We'll talk to you at the second intermission. Thanks for watching.